SVGs and photos into designs, using frames and type, and also how to create a repeat pattern. So let's get started. I'm using the Canva Pro account because this will give you custom size artboards. It'll give you extra templates that you can work with to build your designs. It'll also give you options to give you higher resolution file output so that you are going to get a more crisp print in the end. We also recommend Canva Pro so that you can choose what file type you export as well. So if you don't already have a subscription, you can also get a free trial and check it out for yourself. So I'm going to show you how to create a design that's set up to be the exact size of our custom printed sheets, which is 12 inches by 12 inches. So you can either do that by going to the custom size here, or you can go to create a design and go down to custom size here. Make sure that you've got your units to be in inches and then put in 12 by 12 and create new design. This will create an artboard that's set up to be the exact dimensions of the sheet. So then you can put whatever designs you like inside this area and you know that it's going to print exactly the right size. You can create your designs from using many different templates that there is in Canva. You can also upload any files that you've already got on your computer over in this left-hand navigation bar. You can also upload photos, or you can search for other elements to bring into your design here too, and add text. There's lots of different things that you can use in Canva to help build your beautiful design. So you're ready to start bringing in a design. So to start with, we're going to upload an SVG. So if we go to upload media, so you can use an SVG and bring it straight into Design Space if you want to cut it on your Cricut, but we're going to actually modify an SVG. So if we have a look here, we just grab our SVG file and you can see it loading in. So you can click it and add it to your artboard, or you can drag and drop. You can make the size of it by just dragging on the corner point here, and if you hold shift, actually you don't need to, it actually just scales proportionally itself, and you can see what size will come up in that little black box. So that'll be the actual size that it'll print at, because you've set up this sheet to be the 12 by 12 inches. So whatever size this is, you know that that's going to print at that size. So now that we've brought in this SVG and we sized it to about what we want to size it to, what size we want it to be, then we can, if you see up here, you can change the color. So you can change this SVG to be whatever color you'd like. So we'll just leave it on black. So if you want to include something else into this SVG, if you go to elements and then you can search anything in Canva. So say you want to look for scissors and maybe add that into your design. You can scale that down, and if you want to rotate it, you can rotate it by using this, just on that little icon, and you can see what angle comes up. So say if you want it to be back to 0, and you can see that you can actually change the color here as well. I'm going to show you that, say you bring in this kind of graphic and you scale this. You can scale this. If you hold down shift, you can actually see that it's cutting into this shape as well. So another thing you can see is that you can't actually change the color of this because this is a flat image. It's not actually a vector that you can use in an SVG. So that's a good indication to know that this is not actually something that you can add to an SVG because you can't change the color of it. So if once you've got this all set up, you can save it out as an SVG, and if it's everything that you want it to look like, and then you can bring that into Design Space and then cut it out of your vinyl. If you wanted to bring this into our custom printed sheets products, then you can see that because we've brought in a SVG, it's nice and clear, it's crisp lines because it's line work, it's a vector image, it's not a pixel image. So you can increase the size of this in your sheet and know that it's going to print nice and crisp because you've chosen the SVG for your typography, especially good for typography based designs. So say you want to bring in something that has a photo in your design. So we'll just delete that and we can go and you can have a look and see that there's lots of photos that you can select from within Canva, but then you can also upload yourself your own image that you'd like to include in it. So I've got a photo here. If you can see that now uploading, now you can actually just click and add that to the artboard, or you can click and drag. And you can see if you accidentally do this and it attaches itself to the background, you can right click and then detach the image from the background, and then it'll come in so that you can move it around. Otherwise it's going to lock itself into that background. That's just a handy hint if that happens to you and you're like, oh, hang on, how do I do this? So if you would like to put this in you can scale this, but if you'd like to put this, say, in a shape, then you can have a look in Elements again and look in Frame, and you can bring in, say, a circle. And if you want to drag this into the circle, you can see that this circle just uses itself like a frame. And then if you double click, you can move the photo within this frame. So you can position the photo within that circle exactly how you want it to look. Double click again and click off it, and that will deselect the image within the circle mask. And you can also then scale it as well to be the right size that you want it to be. You can also have a look through all these other frames that they have available in Canva, and you can see that they also have letters and numbers down here too. So if you wanted to, say, do something for mum, perhaps, if you can select multiple things by if you're holding down Shift and then clicking on each item. And I'm just going to scale them all at the same time just so I know that they're all the same size as each other. I'll do that again, just select and click each item and then just space it to how I'd like it to be. If you see that I can drag it, and then if that line comes up in the center, you know that these elements are sitting exactly in the middle of your artboard. If you wanted to bring in, say, a pattern like a watercolor or something like that, you can actually just click that and bring it in to each of these letters. So that makes a cool little effect. And you can also then double click and reposition each of those within each of the letters to make it look how you like it to look. You can also just double click and then delete these. Or if you want to undo that, you can come up here and just undo what you've done. Or you can Command Z or Control Z, depending if you're on a Mac or a PC. If you'd like to pull in, say, an image and position it so that, say, here and then here and then here, something like that, you can do that across the letters as well. And then you could possibly, even if you wanted to change the background to be a color, if you could just highlight the artboard and then you can change the color up here by going and clicking here and choosing colors that you would think would suit this image. See, you can see in this that the photo color, you can see in here, it's bringing in a selection that is similar to this photo that's going to complement that. So a little handy thing that Canva allows you to do too. So we'll delete that, and we'll just delete that background as well. You could add a different type of background. So you could try a watercolor or wood background. So we can add in, say, something like this. And we want to send that to the back, so position and backwards. And say we want to actually make it so that it's not quite as big, like this is maybe a bit too big for your background, so you want it to maybe be more like this sort of scale size. But you can see the join here. So what we can do is we can flip it. Oh, sorry, I've actually flipped this image. We want to actually flip the background. So if you flip it like that, you can see that makes it a bit more seamless. So then you can't even tell that they're two different images. So we can then copy that. So if you highlight both and you hold down Alt or Option and drag, that's actually a quick way to copy and paste. But if you hold down Option and Shift and drag, by holding Shift, it'll keep it in line. So you can see those guides come up to keep it in the center. If it does go off center, you can also just snap it. These guides come up to help you snap it into the right position. So now you've got this background that you think, okay, yep, that looks like how I would like it to look. You can select all and then just deselect the photo image. You might want to make it a little bit bigger and snap it in the middle. We want to create some party favors. So what we would want to have is maybe using this sheet, we can then create multiple versions of this, so we can cut it down and get, say, 9 party favors out of this one sheet. So because this sheet is set up for 12 by 12, you can then sort of do the math to try and figure out how big you would want each of these to be so that you can fit 3 across. So if you, again, scale it, maybe 3.5 might be about the right amount. Position it to how you would like it to be. And again, you can do copy and paste, or you can hold down Option and drag. And you can see that will drag to the middle. And then you can drag again. If you want to make sure these are all evenly spaced from each other, you can go up to Position and then horizontally. That's going to space it evenly horizontally. You see that it's not quite in the center. So if you drag it back into the center and that line comes up in the middle, that pink line, then you know that you've centered that. So, but for the moment, we're just going to add a bit more to this design. So we know that that's about the right size now, and maybe we want to create a little bit of a border to separate this image from the background. So if we type in, say, a circle, and oh, I'm in photos, let's go to elements, make sure you're in elements, so go circle, and we bring in a circle. You can change the color of this, but I think I'll stick with the white. And if you send this to the back, you can put that underneath, and if you hold down Shift, actually you don't need to, you can just hold it from the corner and it's going to scale it proportionally. So we're just going to make it so that it's a bit of a border, and then we can center these with each other. So if you just make sure that you've only got these 2 elements selected, and then you go to middle and then center, that's going to make sure that these 2 items are centered with each other. So then that's sort of separating the photo from the background a bit more. So it's giving you a bit more contrast between the 2. And we want to look to adding some text into the design as well. So we can go to the text, and if you have a look here, there's a whole bunch of presets in here of different fonts and different styles. If you wanted to bring in, say, something that you like the looks of, but you don't like the effect on it, don't be put off by what you see here. You can always change the effects by going up to Effects. And you can see that there's all different effects that you can put on. Maybe sometimes it's just better to have no effect. You can also change how the text sits on a curve. So there's lots of different options that you can use in Canva to create any kind of design that you'd like and put any effects, or say you wanted to put this around the circle. You could do so. But say we want to just choose something here from something that's already preset. Say we're looking for something for a birthday. You can always have a look and see what they've got. So we've already got this. Say you like the look of this. And then if you see that these are two different boxes here, you can double click. You can ungroup them if you want to move them around from each other. But for this one, we're just going to write thanks for coming to. And we can actually just make that a little bit smaller so it fits within that box. If you did want to make it bigger, you can just drag that anchor point to make it larger to fit the text that you'd like. And we're going to say Jack's party. And see how that's dropped onto two lines, so you can actually do that, or we can make that text a bit smaller so that they line up with each other. The top and the bottom are lining up with each other, and then you can just bring that in so the text boxes are just on the outside of these text, the actual text itself, so you don't have these big text boxes hanging around everywhere. If you don't want to keep selecting parts of this background, you can group it. You're not accidentally grabbing each one of these elements. Now we want to scale this to be the right size, and we want to position it to be exactly underneath this design. Okay, so say you want to put this text in a banner. So if we go to Elements and Graphics and we just search for banner, so you can see there's a whole bunch of banners in here. You want to make sure that you choose one that's not animated. So let's say you just click in here, and you can see that it's already behind. If you ever want to check, so you want to make sure that it's behind the text, and you also want to make sure that it fits within there. If you also you can't actually change the scale of this to be less wide, so you have to work with the proportions that you've got with these. If you don't like you think this is slightly too wide, you'll maybe have a look for another banner. But I think this is probably not too bad. So we want to make sure that these two elements are in center with each other. Don't really like how it's snapped that down, so I'm just actually going to undo that and just manually just position that. If you want to zoom in so you can see a little bit more clearly, you can do that. So by double clicking, I've just actually selected that. So if we just click off it and click back again and just position that how we would like it to look. And if we select both and then drag it to scale it to the size that we would like, maybe we'd like it to sit like this. If you can see that middle line comes up so that we know that that banner is now centered with that image in the circle. I think that's looking how we would want it to look. So we can zoom back out again and we can group this all together, make sure that the background's not selected, and group. You can either do that by doing Command G or Control G, or you can go up to here where it will say group. So now that we've got that, you can see that everything is grouped together. We can pick it all up in one go. I actually think you can see a line in this background, so I'm just going to ungroup the background and move these over just slightly. Just move it over so that you don't see that line in the middle. Yeah, I think that looks better. So I will select those again and group it and then make sure that it's centered. And now we can make multiple versions of this image with the text banner now. If we hold down Option or Alt and we copy that across, if we think, oh, maybe they're slightly too big, we can just select them all by holding down Shift and clicking each one and scale it down a little bit more. And then if we want to then have an even space between all of these, position it to how you would like it to sit away from the edge of the sheet, and Shift, highlight all of them, position, make sure that they're in line with each other and that they are positioned horizontally. If you then group these, so we'll make sure they're in the right position, let's put them in the center. If you group these, then you can hold down Option and copy and paste it down again and again. If you then highlight all of these, it'll be easier for you to position them vertically because you've grouped each row of these, and it will read that as 3 separate elements that are going to be grouped and positioned evenly. So if you want to, without manually having to line this up, you can space it evenly vertically so that you know the space between everything is going to be even. And then you can position that. See that horizontal line comes up in the middle. So now you know that that is going to be exactly the right size, in the right position, evenly spaced from each other. So we've set this up so that you can cut out each of these and you know that they're lined up. So if you cut, it's going to cut with an even margin between each of these separate stickers or however you're going to use this sheet. So once this is looking perfect and ready to save out for you to bring into the custom printed sheets, you can save this to be say Jack's Party. So you can find it easily when you try to look for your file to be able to upload it into the custom printed sheets product. So now that you've named it, go to Share, Download, JPEG, highest quality settings for both size and quality, and then hit Download. Now you've got your JPEG at the perfect size and looking exactly how you want it to print in the custom printed sheets. Now I'll show you how to create a repeat pattern. You can go to custom size, inches, 12 by 12, create new design. Okay, so now you've got your new sheet and it's set up as 12 by 12 inches. So we know that anything that you put onto this artboard is going to be the right size. And let's have a look for, say, a floral pattern, but we want it to be an element. So let's search in here. Great, so now that they've all loaded in, we can have a look to see what kind of pattern we'd like to add into our design. So you can see if you just click, you can see all these patterns coming in, and you can also see all the colors also come in. So you can change all these colors to be whatever color scheme you'd like them to be. So for this example, we're going to find, say, this one, and we're going to do, maybe we want it to be quite a bright pattern. So we'll change the background to be, oops, sorry, say this, and maybe a bit more contrast. We'll make this blue, but you can change it to be whatever color you like, and look, it completely changes the look of it. So say we're happy with that color combination, you can then scale it to be the right size that you want, and then, so say we want to just drag it from that corner and we want it to be about this size, you can copy and paste it and bring it across to create, and see it snaps to the edge. to create a pattern. If you group all of those and then copy it down the page, because we've searched for a pattern, Canva automatically has these set so that they can create seamless patterns. So if you just zoom in to make sure that all of these joins are seamless, so that looks good. Zoom back out. You can then select both of those, and so you can see that you can create a pattern pretty quickly and pretty easily. If you want to use half of this to be a smaller pattern and maybe the rest of the sheet to be a larger version of the same pattern, so we can delete those, and we can actually we can ungroup that and just leave one there, and we might want it to be a bit of a larger size. So say we want the top half to be a smaller size and the bottom part to be a larger version. So you can shift and select them all and then bring it to be as large as the width of your sheet. And so we want to copy all of those. You can group that again and then copy that down. Zoom in to make sure that that join looks correct. There's no gap. That looks pretty good. So now you've got a sheet that is half of a smaller pattern and half of a larger pattern. And then you can save that by going to download, JPEG. Oh, again, name your pattern file, name your design. That'll also save your design in Canva as that name, as well as whatever file you want to export as well. So you can save that as the JPEG.